Oh, welcome. This is probably, again, going to try and be about an hour long, but playtime will obviously disprove that or disprove that. I am playing D&D again later, so I will start with a recap, and then move on to a third pass through the maze of smoke and mirrors. And once that's kind of to my satisfaction for now, move on to some kind of weather and climate rules to go along with the battlefield environmental factors I workshopped a few weeks ago. This is, I believe, episode 15. And glancing back through my notes, I can in fact comment that episode 13 was the environmental workshop. So if you want to know, I will be displaying those in the latter half of this stream. But the design process and stuff is all up on YouTube. Uh, channel being Comrade Bubbles if you're interested. So recap. Actually, I suppose I've got 2 sessions to recap. Nothing much happened in either of them. The first session, it was just the players getting mounts, requisitioning mounts from the city to travel to where they know they have to go. During which time the party monk started reconnecting with his teachings and becoming more focused as a result. Uh, a bet was finally kind of put to rest after its conditions were met, and then a dead orc was found and questioned. And then last week's session, a party of orcs arrived on the scene, uh, apparently to collect the dead orc, which unfortunately had been severely damaged by the actions of several party members, and were less than impressed at attempts to deceive them, and violence ensued when the party initiated hostilities. Um, and the entire session was just the combat with this party of orcs, 2 of which turned out to be werebears, and it allowed me to kind of trial some of the weather stuff I'm going to be talking about later. The encounter itself wasn't a forced encounter. If the players had decided to leg it, the orcs wouldn't have followed them. Um, if the players had allowed the orcs to kill one of their own as they were about to, the orcs wouldn't have followed them. But it did allow me to introduce werebears into the campaign. This is something that one of the players has asked for, and I was happy to oblige. So that's where we are at. Tonight's session, in about 5 hours, less than 4.5, will probably at least enter the first layer of this maze. So I want to obviously focus on the maze, so that's ready, and then whatever time's left, go on to the weather stuff, and then if that needs to be part of next week's stream as well, so be it. If not, a lot of stuff done today. So, to refresh people or to introduce people who may not have seen this stuff before, I try to organize my notes so that you can kind of follow along with what I'm doing. W's with slashes is with, oh, W's with slashes are with. That makes more sense. And when I design dungeons, I try to start with some ground rules about the dungeon and kind of as previously established in earlier streams, I like dungeons to have a purpose and to, if I can, tell a narrative within the dungeon, whether that's the history of the dungeon or something else. So as you can see, the purpose of this dungeon is to confuse players and to demonstrate the powers and abilities of the dungeon creator, dungeon liberal air quotes. This is in fact a forest. And to show the transition between the prime material plane and the Feywild magic that the designer has as a result of a pact with a Fey Lord. Partly to introduce Fey magic because it's going to be quite a big theme from pretty much now on, in terms of when the players are foiling the schemes of the big bad. and also as a light-hearted but still dangerous counterpoint to all the Shadowfell stuff the party has just gone through. You'll note in the ground walls, rooms don't always have 4 walls and a ceiling. None of these rooms have 4 walls and a ceiling, apart from one which is a cottage. And it's not designed to kill people, it's designed to mislead and repel them. So where possible, you'll notice there's no overly dangerous traps or anything, it's more puzzle based. So with the whole point of it being to demonstrate things, oh sweet, can just scroll down to the list. You'll note that each layer has a summary and narrative prompt for me to use to convey kind of the feeling of this layer. So the first layer is beasts. It's the normal world with a bit of kind of fairy magic weaved in. Second layer is beasts and fae. So it's where the two meet. And then the third layer is more fairy based. And that's where I'm going to be playing up kind of the vibrancy of colors and the confusing nature of travel through this maze. So in the first layer, 3 rooms, sorry. A river of crystal clear water with a bridge crossing it, but the player characters have to cross the bridge's reflection. I like this puzzle. It's simple, it's short, it shouldn't take them too long to solve. I'm thinking that if they fall in the river, they just kind of can't move forward, so the water kind of pushes against them till they either move further down the bank and affect their own crossing. And clues for this puzzle be things along the line of like any debris they drop into the water gets caught on the reflection, but not on the actual pilings of the bridge, that kind of thing. A mushroom forest, no dangers, just a clearing. They can harvest mushrooms here if they want. It'll count towards kind of herbalism or alchemy kits, forage material. And then empty room with treasure. As you can see, overgrown orchard with an attached ruined cottage. Hidden in the cottage is a lockbox. Lockbox I've determined to be made of damson wood to give them a clue to look in the largest damson tree. There is a rogue in the party. There is no keyhole or ordinary lock. They will need kind of the knock spell or to actually find the key, which will just be like a carving of a butterfly but enchanted. And in the box is the rare book with annotated entries on Fae spirits, written in Sylvan, annotated in Elven, so that the players can kind of get a rough understanding of what things they might encounter. And if at any point players kind of get stuck or linger or look for danger, there will be just normal wild forest animals roaming this layer. All of this is going to be, I'm going to try and keep with very clear description using north, east, southwest for quote unquote room exits, and not really do anything too weird. Second layer, beast and fae. Clear descriptions, but rather than northeast, southwest, use left, right, etc. And this layer also, they can't see where they've been. They can't see footprints or anything. And entering a room and kind of moving around the room, the exits move and passages between chambers change. So if they try to backtrack, they won't find it so easy to backtrack. And I should point out, these aren't the only rooms in the dungeon. These are just the ones of interest. There will be other empty rooms with things in that I'll probably just improv on the fly, or ask the players what they find, and then allow or disallow it depending on how game breaking is the wrong word, but how much of in good faith they take that responsibility. So the 4 major locations on this layer. Um, I'm pretty sure I'm going to move that Boggle encounter to the family suite in Javik's estate. So it cuts it down to 3 immediately, and then some kind of minor Fey influences. So there's the trapped path with the invisible Fey plants. I'm happy with that puzzle. So they can find the source of the river from the first layer, pouring from a jug in the tree, very much along the lines of the Virgo card in the tarot in some depictions. Not the Virgo. Why did I say Virgo? A card in the tarot in some depictions I've seen is a jug in a tree pouring water. I think. Anyway, trees trapped with invisible plants, but they can get the jug, which is the kind of endless water functioning only during full moon or in the Feywild, by making an exchange with the tree spirit. This will be see what they offer pretty much. I'll keep it vague as to what the tree spirit is asking for, just so that I can take what they suggest and turn it back on them. And hopefully they go for that. If not, it'll be kind of, they can have it for a favour to be determined at a later date kind of thing. I'm happy with that as it is. And once that kind of is dealt with, I can then seed the invisible plants further through the dungeon. The Quickling Grove, straight up what it says, this, as I've said previously, this can be a social or a combat encounter. Change PCs to race after stealing some of their items. The monk can go 250 feet in one round. The Quicklings can't. Technically, they could if they dashed, but they won't be. And that's just a mossy glade with rocks, a big tree, and then a large flat path, flat area with flags at one end. If the players do decide to initiate combat in this location, I think the Quicklings are just going to run away because they can. They can outpace everyone but the monk, or they can outpace the monk if they dash. So they'll take the items and run. And then the one kind of overtly, or the first overtly dangerous location, monster with a treasure. And I'm pretty sure I'm just going to reskin the guard Drake from Vola's Guide to Monsters. And it was going to be 3 vials of clear liquid. Appears to be water, but is potion of speak with animals. And this is something the players might find useful down the line. Oh no, I don't want vials. They can duplicate vials. 3 clear beads with a piece of fur in the middle. Grush to cast speak with animals. And if they manage to get these beforehand, they can then talk to the guard Drake and persuade it to not kill them. Either way, it might be useful. Might not, but it might be. And then the third layer, the Fey layer, I'm going to try and play up the more vibrant, chaotic, fairy aspects of it. And again, purposely vague directions. The entrances and exits and connections are going to change. They won't be able to backtrack. The mist actually destroys any sign of passage. So on the second layer, they can kind of, if they blow the mist aside, they can see footprints. On this layer, if they blow the mist aside, they can't see anything. On location sword and like ancient looking greatsword, it's just going to be a greatsword, but if they sell it, I'll just get more money for it because it's an antique. Touching it activates the Rusalka. who they've fought before, and that was in the Tome of Foes, I believe. Card guards standing in front of a cave of ruined mirrors, and a few humanoids of glass kind of walking around, and the players will be able to hear the noise from outside, and then try and gain entry if they want to. And then there's also it'll be a partially destroyed spellbook, but I think I'll leave the ritual. But it's just an incorrect ritual. So that if any of the players try to copy the ritual or take the ritual with them and try to perform it, to preserve life, in brackets, by trapping soul in a mirror. So that if any of the players do try to perform this ritual, obviously they can do it, but this kind of situation, this cave situation will happen for them. The soul will get trapped in the mirror, and the mirror will animate and be completely insane. And then the puzzle trap, born of tree and sun, one by summer's heart, I'm one with the world is one with me. To try and point to a dryad, to put the right head on the statue, in front of I believe it was like a locked gate I decided upon, to that's brute force solution of breaking through gate, and then correct answer opens gate. Tab. So what have we got? Reskin lightning bolt is a so the lightning bolt spell. If they put the wrong head on the statue, kind of lashes out at whoever put the head on the statue and deals damage as appropriate. Male and female presenting fae. One pair with bark skin, one with hair that stylized like fire, and one pair wearing crowns. And then I think if they do the bonus answer and they choose the female bark skin head, provides a piece of her heart. So players don't know this, but the big bad has stolen his sister's heart, and as part of his scheme to kill her, and stored a part of it, given like a part of it to his servant Javik. Oops. And then Javik's using that to power this trap. So if they give the heart to Alara, she can bestow her blessing on one of the party, and potentially change their creature type to Fae. Advantage on charisma checks interacting with Fae. Minor spell effect. So this would be like once a full moon or something, they can cast a certain spell. I haven't fully nailed down her title yet. So I haven't really got any suitable magic in mind for that, but it's something that, you know, might be useful for the party, might not be. We'll find out through play. There we go. Just align all that together. So that's about 15 minutes in from after the recap. I'm happy with the state this is in. I will delete this and try well, if I just open up a new WordPad document. Oh, well. I really should. There we go. Save. And then save as encounters on the Trentham Country Estate. The inspiration for the name, by the way, there is a local estate, relatively local estate to me called the Trentham Estate. And then open that document back up. There we go. So I'm happy with where this is. Currently, obviously things will change through play, and kind of seeing how the players react to the puzzles and whatnot. Like Celtic, I wasn't signed into Steam. I don't think I am, so I didn't notice you're online. Sorry. Oh yeah, I am. Just doing some D&D stuff, wrapping up in about half an hour or so. But I would appreciate your help and input in the next section of this stream and video. So this is my dungeon that the players are probably going to start tonight and then finish up in a month or so, just because of the speed at which we play. This campaign is going to take so long, and probably won't be 5th edition when it finishes. I'm fully expecting another edition to come out before then. So kind of, anyone wants to follow along at home, that's the first half of the document. And the second half of the document, formatting, second half of the document. I make some attractive noises, I'm fully aware of that. So what I will have to do with this after I finish the stream is import it into Trello and format it. Incidentally, if anyone is planning on running long form campaigns or do any world building, Trello is a very good way of doing it with the Kanban card style system. Highly recommend it. Unfortunately, I can't really share mine without giving too much away. Otherwise, I would share it as an example. But I might try and mock up something. I mean, Celtic, as a personal friend, I could give you my Trello link if you want to check out how I use it for campaign planning and stuff. So this is it for the dungeon anyway. I'm happy with where it's at, and hopefully it'll go well. And obviously I'll be including my thoughts and feelings about how the players handle it, and if it does what it's intended to do through recaps and things at the beginning of streams. So with that being said, I will just take care of something behind the scenes and then swap over to the other Notepad document because, again, the way Microsoft Office displays its programs means I can't actually capture it. And for some reason, window capture doesn't work either. There you go, Celtic. Sent. Obviously, please don't edit anything. A lot of hard work's gone into that Trello. Anyway, so part 2 of the stream, which I should probably update the title and everything for. Open climate factors, and then scroll across. Weather effects. Update information. Hopefully that worked. Second part of the stream then, following on from a few weeks ago with the environmental factors. Weather effect, pretty much. So this is the list of battlefield environmental factors that Stream and I came up with. Credit where due, indicated by brackets. And for the most part, I'm happy with it. The purpose of this stream isn't to really edit it all that much. I just wanted it so that people who were new to the stream or who missed the last one, haven't watched it, what have you, kind of had a grounding for understanding of what this is all in reference to. And eventually, once I'm happy with the state of these, I'll tidy them up and put them on DM's Guild and my website and whatnot for free and pay what you want and things like that. But I want to add to this document weather and environment, weather effects. I believe I can underline things. I cannot. I can bold them. Oh, it's all in bold already. Never mind. I can do this though. And then semicolon to denote that they're part of the same section, just for my personal formatting benefit. And then copy paste all the way down. Semicolon. This isn't intended to be realistic effects either. I can't remember if I mentioned this last time. That note could go here. It's just designed to evoke a certain feel at the tabletop. I just got sick of every encounter taking place in mostly square rooms with flat floors and perfect weather. I'm not saying that's not going to happen. It does happen occasionally. But obviously things do happen. Weather is a thing that does exist. And floors are slippy or fragile and walls can be broken. And battlefields are dynamic places that aren't static. Redundant statement. And have interesting features. So that's what this is designed to do. It's designed to evoke that feeling, ideally of kind of blockbuster fantasy movies, because that's what this campaign is about. Future campaigns or other campaigns that aren't designed to evoke that kind of feeling, obviously going to have different rules, different homebrew mechanics, but for the purposes of this campaign, this is what I want to evoke. I'm just going to have a drink of water. And I'm back. So, much like the environmental effects one, I'm going to do it in random order. Players are currently in a grassland in which they are experiencing a storm. So what I homebrewed for this was rain. I don't think I've included rain anywhere on the actual battlefield effect. No, so it was what was it? Rain halves ranges. I should say heavy rain halves ranges. Heavy rain. So it'd be. Oops. There we go. Light rain reduces quarters. No, it'd be reduces range by a quarter. So they have 3/4 of range. And you could add things like cover effects to this or impose disadvantage on attack rolls, which is kind of the standard way of dealing with weather obscuring weather features obscuring targets. And obviously go ahead and do that if you want. Sorry, my eyelids twitching, it's really distracting. That's not the feel I want for every instance of rain. If it's raining and it's dark or heavy snow, obviously things are going to be obscured. It depends entirely on the type of rain. So what I could do, if anyone isn't aware of how to do to move instantly to the front of a word, if you just press Control, it just moves you to the front of the start of the next word. Control and the left or right arrow keys, sorry. Or lightly obscures beyond appropriate distance. I'll get there eventually, chat. And then heavily obscures. And as mentioned last time as well, obviously weather effects can be retooled to become other weather effects. So someone in chat pointed out, probably Kenny, that a lot of environments have kind of an unstable ground, could have an unstable ground element to them, with pit traps or things to fall into. So you just kind of rework them to suit. So this isn't kind of set in stone. It's not definite. You feel free to mix things up. I haven't messed around with wind stuff yet. I literally started implementing weather effects last week, so it's not really come up. I have been toying with the idea of reducing the ability to hear, so a disadvantage on perception checks, or just make perception checks harder if they rely on sound. But as I say, the opportunity hasn't come up yet, but I will definitely be putting it into probably the storm aspect with thunder rumbling and heavy and winds. Wind would apply to all of these, so I might do just a general weather. Winds. Winds impose disadvantage on perception checks relying on sound / grant advantage on stealth checks with a sound component. So moving in heavy armor, for example. And then I hadn't considered the speed thing, so initiative 20 in combat. / when appropriate, when exploring. Roll d8, wind moves from that direction, -10 speed if moving against, +10 if moving with. Now obviously this will speed up movement outside of combat, and I don't imagine I would not recommend doing this every turn or too often, but definitely credit where it's appropriate. Do not determine too often, otherwise he'll just be stupidly just as bookkeeping where bookkeeping isn't needed. And the other main thing was lightning, which I split into a few things. So rolls, d20 rolls of 1 result in d6 lightning damage. Oh, go with xdx actually, as appropriate. Con save for half damage. DC as appropriate. So depending on, obviously a small lightning bolt is going to deal less damage and be easier to resist than a larger lightning bolt. And it was, increase lightning damage by, we'll just say 2, and then 4 for heavy rain. I did have the players last time roll for it, but I think it just adds an extra step that isn't really needed. You can just apply a static modifier. Oh, I was just about to get onto Metal Armor Celtic, don't worry. So, this is how I handled it last session, and I ordinarily wouldn't do it as quickly as this, but essentially, initiative 20, storm intensifies, or lightning intensifies. So first round, and this is the first round of lightning, effects apply to tall creatures, objects, and creatures or objects with a lot of metal. That is a horrible way of phrasing it. Yes, so a lot of things in the game for people who may be unfamiliar with the back end of D&D. If you've got static effects, a lot of the time they act on initiative 20 in combat or initiative 10. An example of this in, I think, Xanathar's Guide to Everything, some trap effects happen at initiative 20 and then some at initiative 10 for complex traps. And it's an easy way of having, and also obviously lair actions and things like that happen in initiative 20. It's a good way of adding the extra environmental stuff without complicating things too much. I generally, if I have players who also act at initiative 20, I have them go first, and then it's never come up, but I would definitely do it players, NPCs, and then other effects. Just so it just feels fairer to me that way. I really don't like the way this is phrased. Creatures or objects with a lot of metal. Creatures in armor. I don't like calling people noobs. Or metallic objects. There we go. So that's your the kind of rough hierarchy. Obviously, if an object's taller than the tallest creature, that'll get hit. But objects usually aren't going to be rolling, but it's there in case anyone kind of animates something, I guess. Um, and then appropriate number of rounds later, effects apply to all. Woo! And this lightning damage is affected by the rain conditions as well. So in heavy rain, they'll be taking XDX plus 4 damage. I probably would say that if they roll a 1 on the saving throw, they don't get hit by 2 bolts of lightning, unless I feel A, they're in a position where they can take it, or B, I definitely have to kill them, which I'm not going to be at any point. So that's something to consider for your games if you kind of like playing that kind of game. As I've said multiple times, I do not. Um, and then if you really wanted to do it, you could also have an appropriate number of rounds later. Um, on initiative 10, 2d6 lightning bolt. Oh, we'll go XDX because that's how you can scale it that way. Lightning bolt strikes random area. And how you determine that is entirely up to you. I'm not going to go into all the ways you could. What I might do is if you divide the map into quarters, and then those quarters into quarters, you roll 2d4, one being the first which quarter it affects, the bigger quarter, and then the second one being the smaller quarter. And then if there's anything in that quarter, you roll an appropriate size die to determine which creature is affected by the lightning bolt. If not, it just strikes the ground and there's no real damage. Um, and then obviously you can add wind into this if you want to, or any of the other effects that come up as a result of this. And I'm glancing at the time. I'm probably going to have to return to this next stream anyway. But this was so it's essentially the way I handled it last session was it was heavy rain, so all ranges were halved. Lightning damage was increased by d4, but obviously I've changed this to a static value, so it's easy to remember. And then every round I just worsened the lightning. And you can then go for, as a result of the storm, you can then start adding kind of unstable footing as the ground gets slippier, and things like that. So they're definitely worth looking at ways to tie the battlefield environmental factors to the weather factors. I'm just going to copy this and then edit as appropriate. So the storm becomes a blizzard. This becomes fall. Well, I guess snowfall. This also becomes snowfall. Same. We'll go with the same thing for now with these, but rather than increasing lightning damage by 2, I will just do -5. We'll just do it this way. -5 speed, -10 speed. And if I were to do this in game at the table, I would probably also cold air every hour or so, maybe. Our average adventuring days, what? Like, do every 8 hours. Save every 8 hours. DC +2 for force march. DC -2 for slow travel. For I guess for Celtic's benefit, because he might enjoy it, but for anyone else who isn't aware, this particulate cloud effect is essentially just reaching into the ground, grabbing some snow, and throwing it in someone's face. I wasn't happy with the phrasing of it then. I'm not happy with what it's called now, but I just can't think of anything. Yeah, Celtic pocket sand. In this instance, pocket snow, of course, but I couldn't think of anything better to call it that could be easily adapted for other situations. I was just absurdly happy with it. And then, of course, the other end of traveling in the Arctic, clear skies. 1, cold air again. And 2, snow glare. Middle of the road DC 13. And obviously you can raise or lower DCs as you desire. Con save. Blinded for 1d4 hours on failure. Yeah, I couldn't think of anything else that wasn't synonymous. So until I think of something, or anyone in the chat thinks of something better, or the comments on YouTube thinks of something better, particulate cloud it is. And also as part of this, snowburn, which is a thing. Exposed skin burns, and creature takes 1d8 cold damage every hour. Burns lower max HP by maximum value of DX. And obviously, that could very easily be adapted for desert situations with just sunburn and hot air. I don't think I have a desert environment on here, so anyway, storms, Arctic weather. I'm gonna have to put all this on my Google Drive so that I can reference it during gameplay, during game time. That was bothering me. Hopefully all of this formatting makes sense to you guys, and it's clear enough that you can follow along and use it if you want to. The idea being, as ever, that at the end of the stream I'll scroll, or well, I'll show you all of it slowly so that you can take note of it if you want to, and so that the formatting helps you understand what's going on. I mean, swampy weather, it's probably going to be rain-based. That's a good joke suggestion, though. I think a lot of these would increase dex DC by 2. Oh, well. Increase dex DC by 4. Also, con DC X con save every 8 hours. Hi Edwin, I'm actually just working on general travel weather effects at the minute, for the next 10 minutes or so, at which point I need to start wrapping up and actually prepare to leave for my D&D game later, with the idea that kind of you guys in chat will help refine them later on, provide suggestions and things like that, just as a workshopping exercise and as something that can be useful in game. I've got sections for Arctic, grassland, swamp, underground, and woodland currently. If you think of anything else, please do let me know. I'll try and, if it's not easily adapted and reskinned to one of these, I'll try and figure something out. DCX con save every 8 hours or contract disease. Simple disease. -1 con at end of long rest. 3 saves required. Or obviously magical healing, or medical intervention. We'll call that swamp fever is a bit on the nose. Mudder's malady. Obviously, if you hit 0 con, you die. So that's just a sample disease that could happen if you fail the saving throw in a swamp. surprisingly, this isn't very easy to do when you haven't been well for the past few days, and also I've played D&D like 5 days out of the past 7, or 4 days out of the past 7, so my creative juices are a bit depleted. But I mean, that's the dream, right? Get paid to play D&D. The 6 hours yesterday, I think, were the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. Underground, obviously, weather's not such a big deal while underground. This is more where we could have things like the yes, outside of earthquakes, which would be more just unstable ground. Not unstable ground. Oh, hey. Uh, uh, Shaky ground. That's it. So you'd be avoiding falling rocks and trying unstable ceiling. There we go. That I knew I had a relevant one here. Have the ceiling fall on people and whatnot. Rocks fall, everyone possibly dies. So this could be kind of rather than wind. Um, uh, ooh, I like that, Edwin. Do, 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 do. Note. Bonus on can't save when consuming. If additional rations are consumed in one day. Thank you. That is a really cool idea. Oh, too far. Pressure changes. And it's not rushing wind. And obviously, fast air movement underground isn't going to be that common. It does happen where there's a mine shaft that's been left open for airflow underground, but not to the extent where this would happen. So this is all obviously going to be aggravated by natural effects, worsened by magic. I've certainly been in situations where I could feel airflow, but not where it would push me around. But things like this could also apply to water situations, underwater battles or exploration, with the water pressure changing and pushing you around in combat and just general movement. For my own amusement, weather in air quotes, bear with me 1 second. Oh, good grief. So I work for a board game cafe, and a game's just been donated to them that looks horrendous. Professional streamer checking phone. Anyway, back to what I was doing. Why am I putting hyphens, you idiot? It's not a hyphen. It's a new line. earthquakes. DCX deck save or fall prone. DCX deck save or be hit by falling roof. I'll put rocks, but with the understanding that it could be anything falling from a great height. Debris. That's a good idea. That's the word. Like I say, 6 hours of D&D yesterday, just after the week. What I'd done during the week as well, it was just too much. But as I say, I get paid to do it, so DCX strength save or drop held items. At which point, roll d20 on a 1, all are lost. On a 2 to 9, randomly lose 1 item. Randomly determine 1 lost item. In this context, buried. I'll change it to buried. This is just a general look determination. So on a 2 to 9, one of your items gets buried by debris. On a 1, it's lost or it's buried but broken, destroyed, that kind of thing. Yeah, effective, or it's not irretrievable, but there's no point retrieving it. And then this will be X DX bludgeoning damage. In most instances, I expect that to be bludgeoning damage. Obviously, some things are sharper than others, but some rocks are sharper than others, sorry. But in most instances, I would totally expect it to be. You would have to be especially looking for a stalactite, and that's the kind of thing I would adjudicate. Say if an earthquake happens on a battle map, well, there's a combat ensuing and someone's standing next or standing under a stalactite, then of course they'll probably get hit by that and it'll be piercing damage. If it's particularly sharp, not all stalactites are sharp, but a lot of them are rounded because of the way they form. I haven't had stalactites or stalagmites as a combat hazard. The players have used them for cover, and obviously I've used them for obstacles and things. The whole point of all of this entire document, apart from for my own personal satisfaction of having these environmental themes covered, is I want to show to my players that battlefields are dynamic and they can interact with them in any way they wish. I haven't been using periods for the rest of the document, so why would I be using them there? Woodland, probably go back up to this. Ignore the lightning. Reduce range by quarter and lightly obscure beyond appropriate distance. And heavily obscure beyond appropriate distance. Obviously, depending on the canopy. If the canopy is especially thick, then the rain will be lessened as a result of that. And it would be wind blows debris around. Initiative 20 or initiative 10, depending on how you feel you want it to go. Wind blows debris around DC X deck save or take probably only going to be 1d something. Again, probably most likely bludgeoning damage, but you can change damage types to suit your personal tastes as debris hits you. In heavy winds, use both initiative counts. Underground, woodland, swamp, grassland, and Arctic, and then just general winds. I think that's okay for now. As I say, I'm not in the best frame of mind to be doing this in terms of creativity, but I wanted to get something done and added to the list. And it's something I will definitely be returning to in the future. Maybe not next stream. I maybe want to give these kind of, particularly the woodland stuff and the grassland stuff, some field testing, so to speak, in my own game, and then come back to them a few weeks' time, maybe a month or so, after having had time to recover, think about other weather effects, see what examples there are in other games as well. I will fully admit to borrowing ideas from and mechanics from other games if they seem cool, and then add them to this list. So that goes down to the cold air. Cool. So top of the list, general weather features, design philosophy as ever, simple, interesting, have a purpose. And with all of these, I don't envisage using every aspect all the time, just when appropriate, and obviously some things will upgrade when it becomes suitable, like rain intensifies, that kind of thing. So general weather effect, winds. Yeah, if you use more than one, like I used the rain and the lightning stuff because it went hand in hand and it wasn't two things affecting the same aspect of the battle. One was just a static modifier, reducing range, and the other one obviously was initiative 20. Well, it wasn't initiative 20 at that point, it was just you roll. If you rolled a 1, you got hit by lightning. But the idea of it's supposed to be fun, not to increase bookkeeping at the table. But obviously that's what playtesting is for. For exploration scenes, I would definitely consider doing kind of 2 of them, or in this case, all 3 of them, because that you've got more time to prepare for those scenarios. Well, I mean, the simple answer Celtic is that in game, for spells that create wind, it's just disadvantage on ranged attack rolls. So there you go. That's just crewing from the actual rules already. Warding winds springs to mind as an example of that. Oop. That's the problem with using tab to format. There we go. So I was just kind of factoring that in as assumed, but I always forget that I have internalized most of the rules at this point, so I'm not the best person to be writing these things, so having chat's point of view helps to point things out like that. Arctic, and then grassland stuff. which is probably where most things happen, really. I have considered Swampy doing an urban thing, but I've not quite nailed down the character I want to give that. So I'll definitely be adding that eventually to this list. Underground, quote unquote, weather and environmental stuff. And then woodland stuff. And you notice a lot of the things are just either reskinned from other areas or based on other environmental effects. A dry undergrowth could ease, and these two could easily both go in the woodland area, the grassland as well. I will clarify this because I had a question about it last time actually. 5 feet around, I don't need to clarify it, I already have. Cool. Okay, so that's all I really have time for today. I need to prepare my DM bag. Oh boy, it's heavy for tonight's game. As ever, thank you for coming along, chatting, giving feedback and making suggestions. Any stream lives and dies by the chat. I firmly believe that the community is the most important part of a channel. If you want to see, if you've missed any of this and you want to watch it, not on Twitch, it'll be on YouTube with the rest of my behind the screen videos. Eventually, probably tomorrow. YouTube channel Comrade Bubbles. Obviously, subscribe if you want to. Leave a comment if I notice it. I will reply if I can. If it's too toxic, I'll probably just ignore it. But so far, I've not had any toxic comments, so that's good. If you want to catch these live, they're streamed on Twitch at Comrade Bubbles. Link will be in the YouTube description. Click the follow button to be notified when I go live, until I will be streaming as usual on Thursday and Friday, I believe. But if you're only interested in D&D, and I know some people are, that's fine. I'll be back next Monday for some more Dungeons and Dragons workshopping stuff. Thank you again.